Hey everybody, this is Katie Cross, and a bunch of you have been asking to get a behind the scenes sneak peek into what it's like when I record an audiobook. So I'm going to take you along with me as I record The Forgotten Gods. It's going to be really funny. I get really animated and I get a lot of facial expressions and a lot of stuff going on. I'm actually going to share my screen with you so you can see kind of what it looks like on my screen as I'm editing in my DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, and then the manuscript below here. I actually use it to kind of spell check and proofread. And when I read out loud, I remember words more easily than when I see them on the page. So if I have repeated words or something like that that I notice, then I will stop recording and fix and kind of fix things out. So this is an opportunity for you guys to see in action, and it's going to be totally embarrassing because I act like a crazy person. Okay, so I'm just going to act like you're not here, and you'll be able to watch me and giggle to yourself in all of this. All right, let's see, where were we? I obeyed. Two demigods appeared the next instant, hurling themselves at the spot where I... Okay. So I'm going to delete this and start Two demigods appeared the next instant, hurling themselves at the spot where I stood. One demigod crashed into the other where my head would have been. They groaned, pedaling to different side. No, I said side. We'll just do that over. Two demigods appeared the next instant, hurling themselves at the spot where I stood. One demigod crashed into the other where my head would have been. They groaned, pedaling to different sides. One lulled in unconsciousness again. The other groaned. Oh, I said groaned up there. We'll just do moaned. The other to different sides. One lulled in unconsciousness again. The other moaned, hand pressed to his head. I chuckled and stepped back, eyes on Neil. The relentless crash of thunder, streaking lightning, pounding surf issued through the torrential rain. I pointed Vivid at him. Next time, I hissed, you won't finish this fight alive, just like Bram, Jody, and Mordecai. I am not only the amulet breaker, but the Lady Witch of Alcara. You should fear me. Defeat flared in Neil's nostrils. A whirlwind of fire swept me away. I have to leave a certain amount of silence at the end of every chapter. So I just say what the chapter, I have to like mark things. So I'm going to say this is end of chapter 14. As I was going through this, I actually realized that my chapter numbering was wrong, so I've had to change each chapter number as I go. Okay. And then what I do is I just create a new chapter 15, and then I just keep going. I want to make sure that's chapter 15. Yep. All right. Chapter 15. Tontus's nefarious storm darkened... Oh, that sounded funny. Tontus's... Whoa. Chapter 15. Tontus's nefarious storm darkened the sky and agitated the ocean, but a walled garden of the... We're going to have to redo that. Chapter 15. Tontus's nefarious storm darkened the sky and agitated the ocean, but a walled garden of what could only be the Rostina Laloon protected me. Busy stacks of turrets, parapets, battlements, and guardhouses populated endlessly behind each other, like a child crowding all its toys together. Greater height, width, size continued to unfold. It sprawled so endlessly. I pressed my back to the closest wall, slid down, and closed my eyes. Close call. My body settled, my thudding heart slowed. Sand had gathered in my mouth during the fight. I struggled to swallow as I wiped the gritty granules off my cheeks and out of the corners of my lips. Vivid lay inert at my side. After several moments of debate over whether I should keep her or send her back to Alcara, I sent her back. Safer there. With god magic, she was easy enough to pull to my side when needed. The momentary isolation was a welcome opportunity to pull myself back together, though I had no idea why I'd brought myself here, of all places. I tilted my head back to study the space. Leaves shivered as wind stirred the world like a giant pot. The towering walls of the garden buffeted the currents into a calm oasis. Oh, sorry. Whew. Sometimes I have to stop recording and then reset my breath. So we're going to... That should be okay. Walls of the garden buffeted the currents into a calm oasis. Oh, and then I lose my spot. I hate it when that happens. Walls of the garden buffeted the currents into a calm oasis. Lights from the rostina revealed hints of life inside. Bowls of burning sand, a torch in a window, shadows as someone shifted past. Mats of leaves covered open doorways, tacked at the bottom corners to prevent rain. Through the doorway to this garden, I could just see an utterly still area, not unlike the Baileys back at Chatham Castle. This space lay open to the sea, elevated to afford a view of the surf. Water fountains sparkled as they tossed droplets into the air. Benches, pots of white and gray flowers, and fence-like walls surrounded it. Twisting spears of sand adorned every few paces. Across the way, an open tunnel occupied most of the view. It was wide enough to admit 3 carriages abreast and soared hundreds of paces overhead. Okay, so now I have to go back and re-record. So I go back to a clear cut. Across the way, an open tunnel occupied most of the view. It was wide enough to admit 3 carriages abreast and soared hundreds of paces overhead, funneling farther into the gigantic castle. Lights flickered down the tunnel, illuminating the darkness. Illuminating the darkness. Farther into the gigantic castle. Lights flickered down the tunnel, illuminating the darkness with bursts of white. Other doorways branched into unknown places, undoubtedly deeper into the belly of this slumbering giant. Let's see. Oh, I said gigantic. I thought I used giant, but I used gigantic. Places, undoubtedly deeper into the belly of this slumbering giant. The inky depths of the hole swallowed my thoughts. Given the opportunity to go into that tunnel, I'd wager that a set of glimmering golden doors could be found. Why, I asked Ignis, am I here? A whisper found. Why, I asked Ignis, am I here? A whisper scurried by, but it wasn't Ignis. Approach me. Ventus. All right, I have to double check this accent. So I have like this library of accents. And I listen to them when I have to hit an accent again so I can practice.
That, he said with finality, is up to her.
That's not super helpful.
Like I said to you earlier, the witch'll come, Ventus murmured quietly. They peered to the east, as if they could see the lands of Alcara from this far away. She is invited.
Invited, right. Approach me. Let's listen to that again. Approach me. Here. Twang it a bit more. A whisper scurried by, but it wasn't Ignis. Approach me. Ventus. A weak surge of annoyance rippled through me. All right, I need to check it now. Scurried by, but it wasn't Ignis. Approach me. Okay. Ventus. A weak surge of annoyance rippled through me. Me. Ventus. Oh, we gotta do it again. A weak surge of annoyance rippled through me. The last thing I wanted to do now was speak to another god. What? I whispered. Approach me. One truth had become abundantly clear. The gods and goddesses toyed with me, little else. Ventus invited me to Alasia, then took his sweet time meeting with me. No time together had surfaced, nor promise of any. He kept Baxter busy and isolated and buried in obligations. Ignis set me up to fight the sons of Tontus without warning, and Tontus wanted me as his slave. Only Galos posed no perceived threat, which made me more nervous than all the rest. Why was he so quiet in the northern Icelands? Okay, I just realized that there's one thing I need to check. Because I say Icelands, but I don't always capitalize it. So then I go through and I make sure the Icelands are capitalized. See, I thought I saw one where it wasn't. So then it's like a double check for me. I can go back through and make sure everything is capitalized. All right, I think. Perfect. So we can come back here. This is a really big moment for Bianca. She's like starting to come into like a realization. So I have to sort of mentally build up that emotion. Why was he so quiet in the northern Iceland? Like in the back of my mind, all the rest. Why was he so quiet in the northern Icelands? Meanwhile, demigods threatened my life. One god had become my sort of ally, and another my enemy, all while mortals looked to me as a savior. Today, Ventus had undoubtedly observed my ability with god magic at Ava's collection. Now he wanted me too. A dawning realization crept through my mind. Who had the power here? Not the gods, not the demigods, not even the witches. I held the power. It was time for me to use it. No, thank you, I said mildly, clapping the sand off my palms. I stood, yawning. I'm rather tired today. All the wind in the garden ceased. A gentle pall, like shock, hung in the air. Thunder crashed over the distant ocean. In the passing moments, my body had relaxed enough for me to feel the pain of battle. A groan issued from me when I remembered Ava and the mortals. They needed to return to their collection and get settled back on their islands. First, I would apologize for using magic on them without permission. Doing so might have saved them, but still. I stood to leave, then stopped. Two figures crossed the open area outside the garden. Geo, for certain. Wind ruffled his salt and pepper hair as it gusted by. His calm expression gave nothing away, despite the wild gesturing of the demigod next to him. Flaming red hair, kinky on her shoulders, pale, freckled skin. Tipa, daughter of Galos, and the demigod that helped me out of the sticky situation at the golden... Oh, I wasn't ready with that breath. Whew. On her shoulders, pale, freckled skin. Tipa, daughter of Galos, and the demigod that helped me out of the sticky situation at the golden guinea hen during the uprising. Geo lifted a lazy eyebrow, then nodded to something she said. Tipa stepped back a step and tossed her hands into the air. Fine. Oh, I have to check her accent. It's been a couple months. The amulet breaker, she murmured. Amulet breaker. The maniacal urge to giggle nearly overcame me. Fine. By sheer willpower, I managed not to laugh. Myself. Is that what they called me? This is ridiculous. I'm influencing the air, she murmured, studying me as if I were something disgusting on display. Fine. She couldn't look away, That's but right. I remember. She has deeper drops. Fine. I'll find her myself. Tipa stepped back a step, and I'm going to change this too. Tipa stepped back a step. I'm just going to say Tipa stepped back and tossed her hands in the air, and then we'll go right into dialogue because that's going to feel a little more natural. Situation at the golden guinea hen during the uprising. Geo lifted a lazy eyebrow, then nodded to something she said. Tipa stepped back and tossed her hands in the air. Fine, she cried. I'll find her myself. This is ridiculous. Oh no, I gotta do Geo. The lady, he's like an Irish. I just did him. He has like an Irish sort of twist. News of you is already spreading across Alasia, really light one. Much to Baxter's frustration. The Lady Witch of Alcara will soon be sought by... The Lady Witch is here? Yeah, the Lady Witch is here. There we go. I got it. Fine. I'll find her myself. This is ridiculous. The Lady Witch is here. Geo turned, gaze piercing right into me. Tipa whirled, peered at me through narrowed eyes, and let out a long sigh. She muttered something, stalked closer, and left Geo without another word. Amused, Geo faded back, toward a side door. Grim-faced, Tipa approached. She grabbed my arm. Come, I shouldn't be here. Let's go somewhere else. That was a little too Mabel-y. Oh, I only have one of Tipa. The amulet breaker, she murmured. See, I normally do a couple The maniacal samples. Urge to giggle nearly overcame me. By sheer willpower, I managed not to laugh. Be here. Is that what they called me? Let's go somewhere else. I'm influencing the air, she murmured, studying me as if I were something disgusting on display. She couldn't look away, but she wanted to. The witches don't see us right now, and they'll be magically deterred away. Okay, she's got a cadence. Come, I shouldn't be here. Let's go somewhere else. That's more Tipa. Come, I shouldn't be here. Come. Grim-faced, Tipa approached. She grabbed my arm. Come, I shouldn't be here. Let's go somewhere else. We didn't speak until the Rostina lay far behind us. The storm tempered into sheets of rain and a slate mat. Drizzle splattered the top of the ocean like falling needles. Halfway to the beach house, Tipa's pace slowed, then stopped. I braced myself. What are you doing here? I asked. She frowned. Drenched strands of hair lay flat against her head, trailing in wet ropes to her shoulders. Water trickled down the side of her neck. My father sent me to check on you. Because of the storm? She eyed overhead, then nodded. Her brow arched as she studied me. You seem hale enough. I managed. What happened? I think the A is right, but it went a little too deep. What happened? From being too close. You should be as well. So why aren't you? Why aren't you? What happened? There we go. That's what I need. What happened? Sorry, my kids are asleep. What happened? You seem hale enough. I managed. What happened? 4 of Tontus's sons approached me. They wanted to take me back to Tontus. Her lips pursed in thought. Did they hurt you? They tried. And you stopped them. I held my arms. Held out. Did they hurt you? They tried. And you stopped them. I held out my arms, silently saying, I'm here, aren't I? She lifted an eyebrow. Good. They could use a knockdown from a witch, though Tontus will be surly for days. For days, not days. Days. It's a bit too British. For days. It's a little higher end, a little less. Tontus will be surly for days. No. Good. They could use a knockdown from a witch, though Tontus will be surly for. I'm losing her. The amulet breaker, she murmured. Amulet breaker. The maniacal urge to giggle nearly overcame me. By sheer willpower, I managed not to laugh. Is that what they called me? I'm influencing the air, she murmured, studying me as if I were something disgusting on display. She couldn't look away, but she wanted to. The witches don't see us right now, and they'll be... don't see us right now. They could use a knockdown from a witch, though Tontus will be surly for days. Expect flooding. I'm sorry I came too late. I couldn't find you. Your mortal said that. Okay. Sorry I came. I'm influencing the air. All right, I think I got it. My arms, silently saying, I'm here, aren't I? She lifted an eyebrow. Good. They could use a knockdown from a witch, though Tontus will be surly for days. Expect flooding. Sorry I came too late. I couldn't find you. Your mortal said that. Ava is not my mortal. Tipa rolled her eyes. Whatever. No, that was too nasally. Whatever. Said that. Ava is not my mortal. Tipa rolled her eyes. Whatever. The girl. She said you were at her collection. By the time I arrived there, no one remained. Did you send all those mortals over here? Okay, since I only have one voice for Tipa in my little repository, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I feel like she came out pretty good. The reason I do these markers is the way that my DAW takes the voice clips out. I only want a certain section, so I have to have a beginning and ending. I'm going to listen to that one more time because that one feels pretty good. Whatever. The girl. She said you were at her collection. By the time I arrived there, no one remained. Did you send all those mortals over here? Okay, that's pretty good. One remained. Did you send all those mortals over here? Yes. Astonishment filled her voice. Why? To protect them. She studied me like something she couldn't quite figure out. Okay, right there I added a word, and I like the addition, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Since I think I can squeak this over. Protect them. She studied me like something she couldn't quite figure out. I wanted to like Teepa, but something held me back. I couldn't quite understand what she thought. Oh, see, but I have it here. So this is where editing gets a bit tricky. And as an author, it's sort of a privilege because audiobook narrators can't do this. I wanted to like Teepa, but something held me back. I couldn't really understand what she thought or where she stood in relation to witches and demigods. Thank you for checking on me, I said. She shrugged. Like De Silva, Galos had always been in the background, a quiet god, hiding in icier plains of the sea. Was he an ally? The thought nearly made me laugh, but reminded me of his shadowy figure in this game, a player I couldn't discount. The moving pieces tallied a complicated game. Okay, I hesitated too long there, and I added a word. Hiding in icier plains of the... It's a bit more natural. I don't always, sometimes I add words in the audio, and I don't always go back and add them back in, but I've been trying to be more consistent. The moving pieces tallied a complicated game. If Galos sent you, does that mean your father is also interested in me? Teepa's body stiffened. Don't read into it, she muttered. The gods don't care about you, Lady Witch of Alcara, only what you represent. Good luck. Her words rang long after she left with magic. I'm going to mark that one too. Don't read into it. Just in case Teepa plays into this one. What's that? Luck. See, there's a little sound right there. We're going to excise that. Present. Good luck. Her words... Nice. Good luck. Her words rang long after she left with magic. Only what you represent. Despite myself, I couldn't help but think of Prana. Oh, Jason, what's Prana? Remember your forest. There we go. Remember your forest. Despite myself, I couldn't help but think of Prana. Remember your forest, she had said. Trust no one. Let's see how much I have in this chapter. Normally when I'm recording, I like to finish at the end of a chapter. Okay, that's fine. Okay. You know what's unbelievable about recording audiobooks? She had said, mouth noises. Trust no one. Sometimes I have to stop just because of my mouth. Morning opened like a scroll as night wound away, tucked against the far skyline. Stars evaporated. Heat returned. Always the hiss of the ocean nearby. I stood in the doorway of the beach house, shoulder pressed to the wall, as I watched the darkness escape. The light reclaimed the sky. Baxter's quiet breaths, steady and calm in sleep, came from inside. He'd appeared moments after I returned, anchored me in a hug that lasted minutes, then railed against Tontus for an hour. Ava said nothing all night. Memories from yesterday buffeted all around. I thought of Merrick, Papa. What would they have thought of such battle ability? What would Papa say now? Think it out loud, Bee. His voice surfaced from distant memories. I closed my eyes, leaned into it with a mental hug. When I disentangled myself from his memories, I opened my eyes to find Alasia again. From distant places in my mind. There we go. So Derek is one of those characters I can nail right away. Think it out loud, Bee. So I'm always excited. Such battle ability. What would Papa say now? Think it out loud, Bee. His voice surfaced from distant places in my mind. I closed my eyes, leaned into it with a mental hug. When I disentangled myself from his memories, I opened my eyes to find Alasia again. Alasia. Storms, demigods, power. Yesterday swirled through my mind with renewed strength. Ignis hadn't spoken a word since I left the collection, and I was grateful. Space, time. I needed distance to think clearly about how easily we paired together in a battle situation, how swift our work had been. That how sounded funny. How swift. How clearly about how easily we paired together in a battle situation. How swift our work had been. How simple the magic. One could almost say that Ignis and I made an absurdly compatible pair. He saw what I couldn't. I acted when he didn't. To fight with god magic? I had become a new sort of weapon, the salvation of Alcara, if we couldn't stop the demigods from rising again. What else would stop Tontis? Not his brothers, apparently. At least, not alone. My breath increased as I thought of Ignis's offer. Keep Alcara. Keep my family, my life, my witches. Keep Ignis. Sacrifice a goddess. Murkiness rose with thoughts of Dea Silva. Who was she? What power did she truly hold? The magic of the forest, obviously. Presumably even more than that, since Prana feared her. Leadham Wood held deep, abiding allegiance to the silent goddess as well. Did I? How simple it would be to forsake her, claim all of this. Such power, dexterity. If I truly wanted to save Alcara, forsaking god magic would be a mistake. To save my land, I needed Ignis. The tug of loyalty simmered in my thoughts. You are deep in thought. Okay, so when I do Ignis, if I do it from back here, it's too quiet, so that in your car or like when you're listening, you'd have to kind of turn it up and we'd have to edit it. So I lean into the microphone and I have to go back and make sure that this is the same size as these and that it sounds good. When I voice Ignis, I clench my teeth. So I look for him like, like really angry, and I try to get really raspy. The tug of loyalty simmered in my thoughts. You are deep in thought. Okay, let's try this again. He's not quite raspy enough. I needed Ignis. The tug of loyalty simmered in my thoughts. You are deep in thought. Ignis's voice in my mind pulled me out of the spiral of questions. I sighed, not certain I wanted him back yet. With the power of Ignis came, well, Ignis. Did I want a god in my head all the time? A moot question. He resided there whether I wanted him or not, and that didn't bode well. My chin tilted back, sending waves of hair out of my eyes. I don't want to talk to you yet, if we're being honest. You're angry. No, I snapped. I'm livid. I deserve a little advance notice when my life is in peril, thank you. You're supposed to be on my side, I cried. Yet you invited those buffoons and I could have died. Okay, so you might notice I leaned back when I let her get a little bit more energy. My kids are coughing and my husband's at work. You're supposed to be on my side, I cried. Yet you invited those Okay, so the voice, again, this all looks even and consistent. So when you're listening to it in your headphones or your car, it's not going to like go up and down and be difficult. I try to kind of keep that voice really modulated when I can. I cried. Yet you invited those buffoons and I could have died. Danger has always been so orderly and gives advance notice, does it? Images flashed. Oh, that came out too strong. Images. Danger has always been so orderly and gives advance notice, does it? Images flashed through my mind. Animals in Leadham Wood that attacked without prevarication. Demigods in the Golden Guinea Hen. Mabel's hideously twisted smile. The erratic snatches of memory made me scowl. Fine, I muttered. Point made, but I hold my ground. Don't be a jerk. If you want me on your side, can you be a little nicer? I want to like you, Ignis. You make it impossible. He paused. You're not the first to say it, he said with some loathing in his tone. I snorted. That just makes this even more ridiculous, you realize. What burdens your thoughts tonight? Reluctantly, I allowed the change in topic, but only because I had my own questions to ask. Tell me about Dea Silva, I whispered. The sound of the surf rolled through the air, the only thing that I could hear for several moments. Just when I thought he'd left, he spoke again. She is my favorite of the sisters, if I had to choose. Don't tell Serena. She takes exception to everything. Serena is the goddess of the desert? Yes. I filed that away for later. There was no doubt that goddesses existed anymore. My floundering over that had long since dissipated, even though I didn't necessarily understand it. The details, however, remained elusive. Is Dea Silva kind? He snorted. Very. You say it like it's a bad thing. Kindness is as much a weapon as rage. Then why hasn't she revealed herself to me? Who says she hasn't? Again, my reply stalled. I let out a long breath, more frustrated than ever. Does she require blind obedience or something? She's never revealed herself to me. Would it be blind obedience in your case? Any reply dissolved in my mouth. How to answer that? Prana's warning surfaced in my mind again, like bubbles from the sea. Remember your forest. Oh, that's not it. Remember your forest. Oh, it's too Ignis. I sometimes when I'm switching accents, I keep a little bit of one and like they sound similar. I have to like clear my mental palate.
She murmured. Has the witch found the book of Almoran magic?
Oh, she overnessed.
Why hasn't it sought to return?
Remember your forest. Trust no one. She's less raspy, more over-enunciating. Remember your forest. Trust no one. That's a little better. But Prana's warning surfaced in my mind again, like bubbles from the sea. Remember your forest. Trust no one. Is Dea Silva the same thing as Leadham Wood? No. Consider me and fire. I am part of fire, and it is part of me, but we are distinct and separate. Dea Silva asks much of those she imbues with power. Her servants are proven... Oh, you can hear I breathed into the mic being so close. I have to change it. Dea Silva asks much of those she imbues with power. Her servants are proven, yet powerful, at least historically. I might have hit it again. Her servants are proven, yet dang it. Dea Silva asks much of those she imbues with power. Her servants are proven, yet powerful, at least historically. Why are you willing to speak about your sister? Doesn't she stand in direct opposition to what you want the most? Ignis chuckled. Potentially, yes. If you were to give your allegiance to me, then it will be me. Ignis chuckled. Potentially, yes. If you are to give your allegiance to me, then it will be because you desire it. I want your willingness as much as your abilities and power. All options will have been presented to you, and you will have chosen. Dea Silva desires the same, I would imagine. But we don't know, because Dea Silva hasn't said as much. Not in words. What other way was there to say it? With a growl, I shoved off of the doorframe. Fine, I muttered. I'll continue to think about it. Think it over carefully. We've only begun to prove the... Dang it, peace. Peace! Power. I have to try and direct the air down. Fine, I muttered. I'll continue to think about it. Think it over carefully. We've only begun to prove the power of our abilities together. Like you, I have no desire to see Alcara destroyed. It is a beautiful land, with more history than a witch could possibly understand. If we save it... It is a beautiful land, with more history than a witch could possibly understand. If we can save it together, we should. A deep affection for Alcara swept through me. inevitably understand. If we can save it together, we should. A deep affection for Alcara swept through me. In a trice, I felt the roots he held in the land of Alcara, understood his fierce pride and longing to return. The sensation ebbed slowly, but lingered in the cavity of my chest. Also, he added as an afterthought, stay on guard. A shuffle of sound drew my attention back to the beach. Ignis disappeared. I could feel him leave this time. Had I become more sensitive to his presence now, or did he allow me to feel his removal, so I knew he gave me the benefit of... I stopped in the middle of that sentence. For a breath, leave this time. Had I become more sensitive to his presence now, or did he allow me to feel his removal, so I knew he gave me the benefit of mental privacy? I hoped for the latter, yet it seemed most likely that I became more in tune with the god magic every day. Geo strode between two trees, headed right for me. Bright eyes met mine with a wide grin. Bianca. 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 Lady Witch of Alcara. Let's try Geo a little bit here. That's a little too British, a little Cockney. Okay.
You don't like it?
You don't
He
like
asked
it?
carefully. Baxter is your friend, isn't he?
I might need to redo that one too.
News of you is already spreading across Alasia, much to Baxter's frustration. The Lady Witch of
Bianca.
Alcara will soon be sought by all demigods.
I'll just try it out.
Headed right for me. Bright eyes met mine with a wide grin.
Bianca. I returned his smile, grateful to think of something else for a while. Merry meet, Geo. How are you? He spread his arms. Another beautiful day in paradise. Although, I hate it when I stumble. He spread his arms. Another beautiful day in paradise. Although too hot already, he added with a grimace. Oppressive heat simmered like the air on top of boiling water, hotter than it had been so far. You prefer cooler climates? A brush crept along his cheeks. Hotter than it had been so far. You prefer cooler climates? A brush oh my gosh. I hate
Hotter
it when
than
I
it
do
had
that.
been so far.
You prefer cooler climates? A blush crept along his cheeks, as if I'd caught him in an embarrassing admission. He glanced to the north. The cooler air of Galos' kingdom does appeal on these violently hot days, yes? Galos is north of here, correct? He nodded, then shivered. Our north, with glaciers and freezing temperatures and ice. So much ice. All those islands are frozen. No sand, just ice. That would feel nice right now, I murmured. Geo stopped a few paces away, hands in his pockets. Linen pants. Geo stopped a few paces away, hands in his pockets. Linen pants flapped around his legs. Again, he wore no shirt, revealing muscular arms, though thin. His excitement dimmed. I bring welcome news from the Rostina. Ventus has officially requested your presence. Today. Geo swallowed. Right now, in fact. Is Baxter here? He's inside, yes. Ventus wants to speak with me right now? Geo nodded. Ventus played the cards of political surprise again. I lacked astonishment or gratitude. Waiting for him felt like an old game, and the temptation to refuse, again, rippled through me. I cast that aside. Not after I had denied him yesterday. Besides, I did want to speak with him. Hadn't I come partly for this? I lifted a mild eyebrow, though my stomach twisted. My subdued smile was fraught with tension. Of course he wants to meet unexpectedly and on his own time frame. Excellent news indeed. Shall I wake Baxter? All will be well, I'm sure. Geo's forced smile hardened. I will escort you to Ventus now. No need to wake Baxter. He won't be allowed with you. Sometimes when my kids cough, the microphone picks it up. He won't be allowed with you. And I could hear it right there. You guys probably
I will
couldn't, but
escort
could
you
hear
to
it.
Ventus now.
No need to wake Baxter. He won't be allowed with you. I already know where to find Ventus if you'd rather stay here with Baxter. Surprise registered on Geo's face. You do? I've been to his throne before. Geo swirled his fingers. In the wind? No, that's too Merrick. In the wind? I've been to his throne before. In. Geo swirled his fingers. In the wind? No. Is it so? He murmured. He leaned forward. You heard Ventus call to you, and you responded. Sort of, I drawled. It's a long story. Understanding flickered through his eyes. He suppressed a smile. Gods can be sensitive. Allow me to walk you to the Rostina. I desire to see the request through. See the request through? I desire to see the request through. Oh, request? I said request. Yeah, I can hear it sometimes when I say
Gods
something
can
funky.
be
I just redo
sensitive.
Allow me to walk you to the Rostina. I desire to see the request through, like a good mortal. Amaret will be, Rostina.
Swap 2 words.
I desire to see the request through, like a good mortal. Amaret will, be upset if I don't. You take orders from Amaret. When she comes straight from Ventus, yes. I see. Geo nodded. Let's be off, then. Gods don't enjoy waiting. The phrase, like a good mortal, rankled my growing ill humor, but I shoved that aside as I stepped into the sand, heart in my throat. A swirl of embers followed as we strode into the trees, Rostina bound. Okay, everybody. I have been recording for... whoops. I always do that. You know what's funny is I'll record. I need to close the volume envelope. I'll record and I will start talking like my characters to myself. It's really quite strange. That was chapter. Okay. So I've been recording for a little around about 2.5 hours. It's just time for me to go to bed now. 2.5 hours isn't bad. I think my max I've recorded is like 4 or 5 hours in a day, but I normally take breaks and give my voice a rest, and I have like these honey tea or some other things that I do. So that's just a brief, sort of brief overview into what it's like to audiobook record. The upcoming scene with Ventus will be even more difficult because I'm going to be double checking my accent with Ventus. It's a very strong Irish accent, and the Irish accent is very forward in the mouth. So I don't go like full Irish, right? Like I don't subsume their dialect. There's I try to pick my own cadence, but I take a rule and then I pick that rule and I apply it to my character's way of speech. So when I do Ventus, there's a couple rules I chose when I mapped out his original accent, and kind of sticking to those just takes me a while. I have to go back, listen, get it back in my head, do it. But since it's a conversation between just him and Bianca, it's not as bad. It's really hardest when I have to toggle, between like different voices, like Baxter and Merrick, and like when Merrick and Regina and Baxter and Derek are all in the same room in the Derek audiobook. That one was a little trickier for me because there's so many variances. So anyway, I hope that was a fun behind the scenes peek. Thanks for coming with me. I hope you enjoyed. And please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like that. Go to katiecrossbooks.com if you want to get my first book, Flame, the Dragon Master Trilogy, for free. And we will see you very, very soon at some point. Bye!